Good morning, everyone. This morning's reading comes from Luke, chapter 1, reading verses 39 to 56. In those days, Mary set out and went with haste to a Judean town in the hill country, where she entered the house of Zechariah and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greeting, the child leapt in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit and exclaimed with a loud cry, "Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the fruit of your womb. And why has this happened to me, that the mother of my Lord comes to me? For as soon as I heard the sound of your greeting, the child in my womb leapt for joy. And blessed is she who believed that there would be a fulfillment of what was spoken to her by the Lord." And Mary said, "My soul magnifies the Lord, and my spirit rejoices in God my Saviour. For he has looked with favour on the lowliness of his servant. Surely from now on all generations will call me blessed. For the Mighty One has done great things for me, and holy is his name. His mercy is for those who fear him from generation to generation. He has shown strength with his arm. He has scattered the proud in the thoughts of their hearts. He has brought down the powerful from their thrones and lifted up the lowly. He has filled the hungry with good things and sent the rich away empty. He has helped his servant Israel in remembrance of his mercy, according to the promise he made to our ancestors, to Abraham and to his descendants forever." And Mary remained with her for about 3 months and then returned to her home. Lord, your word is a lamp to our feet.
Thank you, Andrew. Channeling his best first century Palestinian woman voice there. Well done, Ed. Thank you. Well, today is the third week of Advent, and the theme is joy. And I do like to preach on joy, even if it's just once a year. This is the week for it. And it does kind of like, joy is an interesting word. I find joy a very interesting word because I rather suspect we miss its meaning. We miss the gift that it kind of gives to us, or if you like, the call that it puts on us. The word joy. Because I think we'll miss it if we only try and go with a dictionary definition or a psychological definition, which is simply about it being like a heightened sense of happiness or a euphoria. Because I think joy, in our sense of the faith, is a much bigger word than that. It's more than a passing emotion. It's more than the peak of happiness. Let me give you an example. This is the best example I could come up with. If I was to tell you you were going on a holiday, what's the underlying emotion or thoughts you have about a holiday? What does it arouse within you? You can answer loudly. You're going to need to because I'm half deaf. So, what does it do for you?
Depends where you're going.
Oh, it depends on where you're going. But if I told you you're going on a holiday, excitement, happiness, glowing, worry. Oh, okay, all right, okay. All right, anticipation, yeah. Imagine if I was telling your 21-year-old self you were going on a holiday. Because I know what it's like. The older you get, the more you've got to pack and the more things you do have to be concerned about. But it's all that excitement and anticipation. And holidays, you're getting that chance for either rest or new experiences and your world's broadening and all that kind of thing. Or you're getting the peace and quiet you need or whatever it is. But as we all know, that might be your overriding experience of a holiday. Because almost all of us look forward to holidays. Those of us who worry obviously don't. But if I'm telling you you're going on a holiday that's somewhere you want to go to, and it's something that it's either a new experience or whatever, all of us have this sense, I'm sure, of that there's this overriding feeling within it that holidays are about whatever it is that it's about for you. For me, it's calm and peace and excitement and energy. It's a chance to recreate. And I look forward to that when I say I'm going on a holiday. Now, let me be clear that not every part of every holiday is about peace, calm, quiet, recreating, right? You understand what I mean? When you go on a holiday, you're going to have a whole range of different emotions. There might be points of frustration where the airline changes your seat and you haven't got a window seat anymore. There might be, it might be the car breaks down. You get down to get to the car. I remember when I was working in Redfern, the poor people, our curate at the time, had himself all set for a holiday and went downstairs. They went to leave and someone had broken into the car and taken everything, There are points on a holiday where there's anger. The person you're with suddenly isn't doing exactly what you want them to do when you want them to do it. There might be points of frustration or hunger, or there might be periods of warmth and peace. There might be worry as you start to watch your bank account dwindle as the holiday continues on. Or you might lose your passport. Yeah, that's right. All the frustration. I once got to the airport with Gail, and I'd actually filled out my visa into America the wrong way round. And here I am at the airport trying to apply for another visa. My M&N on my passport looked very similar, and I got them wrong. That caused concern. But the overriding sense of a holiday is still maybe excitement, calm, peace, energy, whatever it is for you. You understand what I'm saying? It's an overall sense of flavour or essence about a holiday, regardless of the ups and downs, that stays with you about holidays. Otherwise, we wouldn't take them. And I think that's what joy's like. It's one of those words that's this underlying or overriding, if you like, flavour or essence in life. And you either have it or you don't. It's this kind of response within you. This long-term inner response bubbling. It's a way. You're often not aware of it. You're not conscious of it. You don't say, gee, I'm feeling joyous today. I haven't met anyone who's ever really said, I'm in a joyous mood today. But it does come. It's a resultant way of being. It's this flavour within you that is coming out of somewhere. Can you aim for it? Can you seek it? Kind of like, can you set your, when you've got to write your New Year's resolutions or your goals for the year, can you write down as a KPI, probably a key performance indicator for 2024 will be that I'm going to feel 17% more joy? Or even just saying, I want to feel more joy. You sound a bit hedonistic, like what you're seeking is the pleasure, or what you're seeking is the good feeling. It sounds a bit silly. In Australian language, there's another word in the vernacular that's even a bit rougher than that. I won't go there, but you sound a bit kind of like you're missing the point when you say I'm reaching for joy. I often feel it a little bit too when people say to me, I just want to be happy. I get the sense. I mean, we all want to be happy. But the bottom line is that life's like that. And happiness is just one of the peaks. And you're never going to get to a point where happiness is like that. Yeah? Right. And that's the truth. But if we work in the bandwidth about those things that give life its stability, then the result is that we will have a wider bandwidth, and joy will be one of those kind of underlying foundations that helps life to be more, look at whatever it is, whatever your word is, more at peace, more stable in a good way, more brilliantly godly flavoured, if you like. That spirit sense of life having something bigger than yourself. You see, joy is this kind of thing that catches you. You don't catch it. Joy is this thing that catches up with you. It's this marinade that starts to become a stronger flavour in who you are. And it does come from some of the attitudes and choices that we make about who we are going to be. There's no action plan for joy. But there is a sense of a goal for who I'm going to try and be this today, in this moment, in this week, in this year, in this life. And joy will be one of those little foundations that will grow alongside of that. You see, the thing is, you won't experience much joy. To give you the flip side of this, the way to shrink your joy, or the way to I don't know, I don't want to say it that way, but what will shrink joy is if your marinade or your flavour is one of meanness or stinginess or judgmentalism, when you're always looking for what's wrong in other people, when it's indifference to the plight of people who struggle. Your flavour won't feel like joy. Your flavour won't feel like joy if you're marinating in anger or violence. If you think that's the way the world can be sorted out, you won't be experienced as a person your flavour won't be joy. And we're about to get a lesson. We do get a lesson this week from two women about joy. About how to centre and align our lives in a way where joy breaks out. Where joy overcomes. Where joy is present and palpable. You know, in our faith, the Christian faith, which, you know, I don't know how many times I've sat through, I don't anymore, I haven't for quite a while because I joined the Uniting Church, but sat through, you know, explanations and homilies and arguments about the role of women in the church. In a faith where a lot of men postulate about the role of women, we get a lesson on joy from two women today. Elizabeth and Mary. And I'm sure there'll be sermons going on today about the obedience of the two women to the call of God, and, you know, kind of like, I think we've got so much more to learn from this passage than that. Or about their utility or their choice to be pregnant. I think we've got so much more to learn from them than that too. Because what we have are two women who are, they're They're related to each other. They're kind of like there's a distant relative connection here. But they've obviously got some sort of connection because they live about 140 kilometres apart. And Mary is keen to make that journey when she discovers that she's pregnant. And she's at the beginning of her childbearing years with her first child whilst very young. And she goes to visit her relative Elizabeth, who is quite old to be having a child, also for the first time. And I think in their interaction, as we have it in the book of Luke, and it only turns up in the book of Luke, but I think what we get from their interaction is best expressed by Mary. In what we know as the Magnificat. And flowing through it is this sense of joy. But it's not just joy. The joy comes from somewhere. The rejoicing in this passage comes from somewhere. You see, Mary, in her response to Elizabeth's blessing of her, she has this wonderful prophecy, if you like, a foretelling of being able to see how the world is and how it could be. And she expresses it in this present tense. In other words, it's something she is living her way into. It's not for the future. It's not for other people to sort out. It's not from the past. It's not like this was something that has been done and we won't see it again. She's giving it this sense of it. This is happening. This is being fulfilled. And her soul magnifies the Lord. And her voice, as she shares of what God is doing within her for the whole world, her voice doesn't turn to this kind of like, this is about me. Like God is doing this in me, for me. It's God is doing something for all. And she becomes the voice of the downtrodden, of the lowly. She becomes the voice of the lost. She becomes a voice for the humble. She becomes a voice for justice. And if you're wondering where the joy has gone in your life, then listen to this. Listen to where Mary's rejoicing comes from. It comes from this sense that God is about hope for those whose lives are downtrodden. There is a chance for transformation. There is a promise of transformation. Her voice for those who are lost is that you don't have to do this alone. Turn your eyes from your own plight and turn to the awesomeness of God. Allow yourself to be lost in God's awesomeness rather than being lost in the way of the world. It's actually something that a lot of Western Christians aren't really good at. We like to have God knuckled down, screwed down, bolted in. We like to believe that we understand God and we know where to place God. That's a joy killer. If you're seeking joy, allow yourself to be broken open by God. Lean into God's awesomeness, God's wonder, God's mystery. In a culture that's so built on honour and power and position, status, Mary speaks these words of humility, that she's prepared to place herself in a whole different way. She calls herself servant. She talks about the sense of the humble being honoured. In Mary's sense of the world as it could be, the world as it will be, is this sense of justice. The hungry will be fed. The rich will be empty. The hungry will be fed. It's this change, it's this overturning of the world order. Now, you and I look at it and go, well, the world doesn't seem to be operating that way. We see a lot of pride. We still see a lot of people who are lost. We see a lot of people who are downtrodden. We meet a lot of people who are hungry. We meet a lot of people for whom the world is quite difficult. And friends, all I really want to say is that I just honestly believe that this is one of those works in progress that you and I, this is God's work in progress that you and I are invited into. One of the things, I wrote this in News and Notes, and one of the things that has struck me this year is that this interaction between Elizabeth and Mary, I mean, the two children that they are bearing are John the Baptist and Jesus. And look at the way that these two women talk about life and about their hope of God in their life and what they're, I mean, you know, most people kind of just hope their babies are going to be happy and healthy. But Elizabeth and Mary are raising their two children into a movement, God's movement in the world. God's movement of raising the humble. God's movement of feeding the hungry. God's movement of meeting the lost. Friends, that's where the joy comes from. That's where the joy comes from. And all of us are invited into this way. All of us are invited into God's way. I think when we learn to be part of God's work, of meeting, of honouring, of humility, of justice. We can truly exclaim, joy to the world, joy to the whole world. The Lord is come. We're going to